we're going to go over orbit and frame selected objects in Blender. So if you click on an object, for example, like this, if you were to move out, you no longer see the object in the viewport. So to frame it, what you could do is press the home key on your keyboard and it will go back to it. It'll go back and frame what you have selected, basically frame all actually. So another way to do that is actually when you're in the 3D viewport, you see you have its own menus here. If you go into view, then you see frame all, which has the hotkey, the home button on your keyboard. If you press frame all, you'll frame what you have selected. So if I choose instead of in the outliner here, the camera, and I go to view, frame all, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what you have selected. It's all the objects in this scene. So if I had, let's say that camera, or even select the slate and move it around, navigate around, view, frame all, it will still frame everything that's in the scene. Now you could frame selected by, I could go into the viewport and click, or I could select it in the outliner here. Let's say cube, go to view, but instead of frame all, I could do frame selected. And it'll frame what you have selected here. If I want to go to the light, I could click on the light, and the hotkey for frame selected is a numpad period. So it's on your number pad. It might be next to the 0 or under the 3 key, depending on your keyboard. So pressing that, now I select the light. Now if I want to go to the camera, I can click on the camera, say view frame selected. Great. Now one other thing, you could also frame selected with the slash key, which could be next to the right shift key, and that will toggle. As you can see here, it says user perspective local. You click it back, that one, you could press the slash key again and it will toggle back to where it was. So go back and forth. And you could click and drag, select, and it will frame what you have selected and go back and forth. Whereas if you use the slash key next to the shift key, depending on your keyboard. If you press the period key or the period key on the numpad, it doesn't toggle. It just frames what you have selected. One other thing, if you try to orbit around, for example, let's say I hold shift and middle mouse button click to pan these objects to the corner here. And let's say I want to, especially when you're starting out, I want to navigate around. It's kind of hard to get around here. And what you could do, even if you have selected, a common workflow, especially in other 3D packages, is to frame it. For example, press the period key, and then you could orbit around it. But if you're out here and you don't want to necessarily frame it, there's another option. If you go into Edit, Preferences, and under Preferences, you have different categories here. If you go under Navigation, you have an option here. One, you could change turntable, trackball. We'll keep those for the moment. But the one I want to choose is Orbit Around Selection. So let me show you what happens without it right now. If I just move that to the side. If I were to press and orbit around with the middle mouse button and drag, you see it moves all over the place, even though I have my object selected. With this option, if I turn on Orbit Around Selection, remember that's go Edit, Preferences, then go into Navigation, Orbit Around Selection, turn that on. Now, if I orbit around, whatever I have selected will stay in the viewport. So I find this option pretty useful, so I'll keep it on. You could always go in and toggle it on and off depending on your need. And you can even change, for example, trackball. Some 3D software works this way. And doing the trackball, you could actually go around as opposed to when you're orbiting instead of the traditional turntable, which I am more of a fan of. well, right now I have to reset it. So one way to reset it, if I press, I'll hold Alt and just drag with my middle mouse button to snap to an orthographic view. And then I could just middle mouse button drag to orbit around again. And then I could press the period on the numpad key to frame it again. And I'm back to the normal turntable. So play around with your preferences and see what you like.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.